Okay, and so today's profile cut is going to be a very standard clipper cut, really, short back and sides, and very underestimated cut, but you know, hugely popular. Depending on the length of the haircut, you could always do it with your scissors and your fingers, taking it around, obviously depending on the length. But today what we're going to do is we're going to put some clipper work involved. We're going to start realistically in understanding again the natural contours of the head, which for this haircut is massively important. So again, just looking at where the head naturally starts to bend and to curve, especially at the back. We're going to leave that weight just behind the back of the crown area. Remember, occipital bone just above, natural curve, guide, and we're going to create a connection in about that area. To the side sections, again, really important just to gauge it. So again, natural curvature of the head, where the comb leaves the head. We're looking at a guide in about that area, just below that curve, just so we can connect and blend. Isolated the beard, and then we can just get going. So what we're going to do first and foremost, and there's many ways you can tackle this cut. You could go in with a pair of clippers, grade 4, straight up to your connection point and pull out, not a problem. You could put a little bit of a guide through and then use that as a connection point, which is what we're going to do today. You could come up with a grade 2 into a 3 into a 4. So there's many different ways you could approach this haircut, but because it's quite long, we just want to make sure that we are literally working today from kind of like the highest lengths down into the lowest lengths, rather than the lowest lengths up into the highest lengths. Either way kind of works. It's a barber's preference really, but we're going to introduce a little bit of clipper over comb, following on from our last profile cut, which was the French crop. I think it's important to just kind of get to grips again with a bit of clipper over comb work. So naturally working around the contours of the head, always standing parallel to your section. We're going to put a clipper over comb guideline through. Work the grade 4 up, work the grade 3, work the grade 2. Use the comb as a kind of like a collection tool really, so we're going to just gently comb it up, collect it, angle that kind of comb slightly out, obviously, just to get so we've got sort of enough hair to blend a little bit. So here we go. Nice and gentle with the clippers, nice and slowly. Don't rush it to start with, it's not a race. We're literally popping in our first guideline. That will be our connection point for our grade 4 to run up and blend. So comb it, check it. Nice and even cut. Comb angled slightly. Clippers running along parallel and very smoothly along the comb. The comb is maintaining the same length pulled out from the head, which at this stage is about 1 inch. So you don't want to be coming in too tight, too loose, otherwise you're going to get inconsistency. So we are literally now looking at following that first connection guide along, up, nice and gentle. Keep combing and checking. So we're at the right position there. In, find our guideline, literally from the centre of the comb onto the right there. Pull forward. Just bear in mind that we've got a fringe here, so we're just going to push that fringe across slightly to isolate it so we don't start cutting into the fringe. It's not necessarily that important because we're going to take the fringe quite short, but I just want to get a clean sweep across to the front of the head. So again, comb in, collect, find your guideline, centered there, just on the right hand side. Comb locked into the position of 1 inch away from the head. Slight angle, tilted to enable us to get a blend. You just start to see there, connection blend point. Visually you're checking that haircut all the way through, so you should be able to see where we are. Move the head around slightly now so we can focus on the opposite side, following the same pattern. So up into the center, collect and connect, collect and connect. Follow that around, and we can just see where our guide is here, considering to the length of that. So we're just going to work our comb back through, collect and connect. Guide on the left this time around as we're working around through the head. Maintaining that inch away from the head as we're working towards the front. Angle stays at the same position. Okay, so now we've got a visual guide that we're working towards, which is situated in about this area, all the way around, just underneath the natural contours and curvature of the head. Grade 4 attachment's going to go on nice and simple. Just keep the clippers really nice and clean, remove any excess hair. So the grade 4 is going to slide on, click into place, check it. You don't want to run it up and it comes off, otherwise we've got problems. generally work our four up to this connection area. So nice and slowly, because again the hair is quite long and the clippers will just jam in slightly if you rush it. So nice and slowly, and start to work the clippers up the back of the head. As you can see, I'm holding the clippers in the center point, which gives you very good control when you're working with a curved motion to connect to this area. So again, combing down, up, and start to elevate the clippers out. You're elevating the clippers out as you start to approach that connection point. So in and out, and you're trying to connect. The idea is to connect as best you can to save the work from scissor overcombing and clipper overcombing later on. And just out to connect. Clean the clippers slightly. Is as you work from the side section, whatever falls in front of your comb generally is a fringe panel. A lot of barbers will use the technique where they will comb the hair down into the path of the clippers, so you can then get a nice even connection between the hair and the clippers as you're starting to work up the head. Just feeds the hair into the path of the clippers. You're flicking the clippers out really in that sense of blending. Remembering when you're applying the clippers to the gentleman's head not to apply too much pressure. The clippers do vibrate and they can be quite uncomfortable. You do not want to be running them across the customer's head aggressively. When you're running the clippers across the head, there are times where the clippers will make contact with the head. But as you are fast approaching the connection point, you're obviously going to just bring those clippers away from the head to enable you to get that connection point. So from a side profile, running the clippers up, 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 up and up, contact with the head, and now we've started to release, having that area of connection where the clippers are going to be moving up. So we're coming in and out. Changing the colour of the comb so we can pick up easier to see the areas that we need to blend in and connect. And it's small amounts, but it's a little bit of a delicate process. So we're literally going to run our clippers across just to blend that through. You can use a slight point cutting technique as well, just to soften the edge, take that weight out. In and collect, nice and gentle, just blending that through. Alright, again, a little bit of freehand, maybe slight bit of chipping work to soften that through slightly. We're going to run that grade 3 into about this area. And again, it's just double checking, taking off a few bits to soften it through and blend. Pull the lever right the way back to enable us to go a little bit higher in towards the connection of the 4. And again, just flicking your clippers out. You can see how the clipper motion and action is to connect. So you're flicking out. And that's with our 3.5, lever back. Grade 2 attachment on, and now we're just going to follow that through to the bottom part of the haircut, below the occipital bone. 2, lever back for 2.5, blending into your 3. At this stage, you're not just looking at the haircut, you're also hearing the cut. So you'll be able to hear when the clippers are working, reducing the extra length. No hair being cut off. But don't forget, the hearing aspect of the cut is as important as the visual aspect. Sometimes you can't always see it, but you will definitely be able to hear it. 2.5 and flick into the 3 just to blend. Often around the ears you will need to change the direction of the clipper. It's very important you can see this, okay? If this is a grade 2 and I run it flat along the head like so, I'm going to eat into part of my 3. By tilting your clippers out slightly will enable you to have that connection from tighter to looser and a blend into the 3. Running the clippers along at a slight angle will enable you to get that flow. Elevating the clippers out to blend into your 3. So we're going to take this fringe quite short so we can enable that to blend into the top section. There's a lot of excess weight through the sides here. So again, we're just going to comb and collect and remove on the curvature of the head the excess in those particular areas. Stay with our point cutting technique for the moment, just to blend and connect. Connection point from underneath guideline from behind. There's a lot of excess through here, so we're just going to come down, comb, collect, guide from behind, and point cut to separate, elevating the comb out to maintain some length through the fringe. And again, just on this particular side, comb it into, guide, elevate the fringe out slightly, guide and connect, using our rest finger to hold the scissors in place correctly. Cool. We're going to now literally be quite creative through the front. I want to get quite a bit of texture into this particular area. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of twist cutting. So we're just going to grab a section, gently cut into it. Grab a section, gently cut into it. Lift it up. A little bit of deep point cutting just to blend. Using our clippers, we can literally pull up and chip away very casually into areas that we want to blend. In fact, you can put your fingers through the top and just chip away. Point cut out a little bit more of the weight through the fringe. Just using a freehand technique, no comb. Cool. So again, corner of the clippers, always checking them on yourself first. Just going to follow the natural curvature of the ear, just nice and delicately, tilting the clippers around, following the natural hairline against it to make sure you get a bit more of a detailed approach. Very delicately chip away at any of those last little bits. Okay, tiniest little bit of checking through the front. So again, we're just going to push it forward and then soften through. Little bit of freehand work if required. Tilt the comb in and check it. These particular edges here we've got to work through with our forward sweep motion. So again, past the hairline. Freehand. When creating any form of neckline shape, we generally create the neckline shape, take the clippers down the gentleman's neck, reverse the clippers around and work up to the created guide just to remove any excess. So create, turn, up, and remove any excess neck hair to come in and sweep and collect and just taper off into the edges any excess by running the clippers along the comb. Okay, so you've joined us on the back end of the dry. Nothing stopping you from doing this haircut with a very much more of a liberal clipper kind of motion really. So you can take your sections through the top, comb up and use your clippers to point cut. I would love you to experiment with using both scissors and clippers. Clippers are a really good way of just controlling and texturizing the haircut when you're doing something which is going to have an element of a choppy feel to it really. So just be mindful that you can use both. You can use a little bit of twist cutting. You can just add that little bit of separation by twisting through the edges, tidying it up a little bit. This is all visual, and this part of the haircut is what we know as personalization. So you can literally just personalize it, chop into it according to your customer's requirements and how you want to present the haircut. top tip for when you're using clippers, don't just rely on visually looking at it, listen to it, you will hear bits of hair coming off or not. So we can use, in this case, a little bit of more of a clay product, a little bit more stickier, certainly a little bit more supportive with very thick textured haircuts. So working it through your hands really well, and again from the roots into the mid-length and ends to complement all of that extra texture you've been creating with your different cutting techniques. So product placement. So really good just to get that little bit of texture throughout the look. Place it into the particular areas you want it to go. Bedhead TG wax stick, been around for ages. Really nice product just to melt into your fingers and twist the product in to create that separation and that textured to complement the overall finished product. Alright, so we really want to get that kind of casual feel for it. Okay, just twisting the customer around, working it through around the back area, and again just lifting off the crown. You can see I'm kind of twisting the product in slightly just to complement that feeling of texture. Okay, so an underestimated haircut, realistically using just a standard pair of clippers, clipper work, clipper over comb, a lot of blending, a lot of controlling, pulling our sections horizontally to connect around the contours of the head. So thanks for watching. It's going badly wrong today, isn't it? Hey?